Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our this webinar. And we are so happy to say a welcome to all of you. And we are just waiting 1 or 2 minutes for people to log in to see our Facebook page and to join us directly live on our webinar. So we are so happy to have all of you here, and we have full packed, panelists, and they are before this webinar, I was talking with my panelists, and I really felt we are really diverse and feeling the inclusion, which always we talk about. So we just wait 1 or 2 minutes, and then I will officially start the webinar. Thank you so much for joining us, all of you. Thank you. Okay, so I just felt because we have full panels and we really want to save these 2 hours. So we're going to start it. So thank you again, everyone who can watch us on Facebook page and who can able to join us on live in this webinar. And we are so excited to holding this event today, which is digitalization during this pandemic. Either is a new opportunity or new barrier for refugee and migrant women. And why we felt to hold this webinar today, it's really based on our own experience when we are saying we refugee and migrant women who are living in Europe. When this pandemic happened, everyone felt unconsciously need, and they were pushed, to live in this Zoom land, to in this digitalization world, to use it everything via technology. So we are just trying to reflect using this webinar to see how these technologies are helping refugee and migrant women or not. Because women who are living in Europe and coming from developing countries or coming from other countries who are not born here in Europe or who even born in Europe, somehow they are feeling some kind of distance from this technology. And we're just trying to listen to through our panelists today, this technology, this digitalization, either they are helping them, they are inclusive, they are really meaningfully connecting each other or not. So we will discuss this. So before starting our and introducing our panelist, amazing panelist, I will go through quickly to how the agenda looks like and how we can be engaged more. So if you see in Facebook live, you can post your question. You can tweet any question if you have, and people and audience who are joining us through webinar live, they have a Q&A button, so they post their question directly to assigning any panelist they like to ask question. And we also have chat box, so you can also ask any question, and if you feel any recommendation or any feedback or any suggestion, please, we really highly encourage you to do so, because this is for us, this is for everyone. And if you are not tech person, or if you're not in digitalization, it does not need to be feel like you are not here. You are right to be here. So this is your moment to share about it. And technologies and tech is for everyone. The mobile is there, so it means we are connecting. TV is there, it means we are connecting. Cables are there, it means we are connecting. So as we are taking breath with the oxygen, we are also living with the technology. Either we are tech expert or not, regardless, it's not important to know. So we really encourage you to feel connected. So what is leading resilience? New Woman Connector is from last few years trying to make inclusion creating a platform for refugee and migrant women who are living in Europe and who are really trying to see and trying to tell what's problem according to them and how we can solve them. When this pandemic happened, we again try to pull together our all energy to realize what will be the new normal, and we put this project Leading Resilient to show how refugee and migrant women living in Europe and how they are coping together and growing together is pandemic. And we are holding a webinars in different languages: Arabic, Spanish, Pashto, Urdu, Hindi, Punjabi, and English, obviously. And when we were having discussion, the impact of COVID on our lives, daily lives, we found it digitalization, this tech is a really, really main element to talk about. And in one way, when in our different webinars, participant and panelists, even they say it's becoming so difficult when everything is becoming online and we have to do homework with our children online, and it's so difficult. So you can imagine if doing homework online is becoming mandatorily important, and then how the distance or uncomfortable zone of digitalization creating more barriers. So that's why we are creating this event today. And after this event, we're gonna have one more big event in 20th of October, which is Phila Working Conference, how we can bring the gender equality and equity in the policies and the strategy of the new normal. We really want to make sure. And this today's event, we're gonna have many panelists, and the agenda looks like this. Round one will be all panelists gonna share 10 minutes their work, what they are doing and what they think about this pandemic, and what they can offer for refugee and migrant women. And in the second round, we will have Q&A style. So it's like a mix of interactive session with all panelists. So who we have in this Zoom land today? So my name is Anila Noor, and I'm a founder and managing director of New One Connector. And with me, I have Razan Ismail, who is working with us in New Woman Connector, and we have Noura, who is helping us today, and we have special moderator Ifat Rose. She will lead the discussion for round two. So I really officially welcome all to this webinar, and I will start our round one, where I ask each panelist with Razan to share their talk. So we have 7 amazing women, change maker in the tech world. So first person which we'll ask is Claudia Mendez Silva, and I'm again saying I apologize if I'm pronouncing the name wrong. If when you have your turn, please correct me if I'm wrong. Then we have Christina Bulako. She is a founder of newly launched initiative State Free World. After her, we will invite Caroline Williams. She's a founder the Do Good Only company and head of Rebel, a banjo player and active based in the Netherlands. And then we have Anastasia, who is joining us from Greece, and she's working with the International Rescue Committee, and she works in integration and economic empowerment programming, especially from refugees. Then we have amazing, a person from France, Josephine Gob. She's a CEO of Tech Refugees, and with her we have Rania Youssef. She's a fellow at Tech Refugees, currently involved in more than 4 women program. And then we'll invite to listen to Sandra Thomason. She's amazing emotional intelligence coach. She's also founder of Exceed All Expectation and Rise Emotional Intelligence. And there was meant to be one more speaker, Leticia, but unfortunately her grandmother passed away this morning, so she's unable to join us. But we're gonna miss you, but we're gonna stay in touch. So this is the day look like today. And I'm so overwhelmed. If you can see, we have so many amazing panelists. So I will request to Claudia, who is IT project manager and MPOs and Siemens, and she's also an ambassador for Women in Tech living in Lisbon, Portugal. So really happy and looking forward to your talk, Claudia. And I will give this floor to you to share your feeling, how you feel empowerment of women in tech in Portugal. And we're looking forward for your talk. So Claudia, are you ready?
Yes,
Okay,
of course.
good. Over to you. Thank you.
Okay, so when the time is come for me, just give me a sign, because I'm get the Latin when they start to talk a lot and they don't know how to stop.
Okay.
So you sound perfectly with my name. As Nila already said, I am project manager, program manager, but I am a computer science girl. So I started in computers as I had 14 years old. Now I am 44, so you can imagine 8 years ago. And here in Portugal, we found a way to attract women in STEM by sharing our examples that women can succeed in computer and how to use tech. Nowadays, everything is based on tech, right? And we can see still the gap between women and men in the universities. Some girls at the age of 14 drops the idea of being involved with tech, and they follow traditional paths. And we are trying to change the idea that that the science and technology is for all and they can do it, because they have the self confidence gap that they need to be improved at the age. So here in the context of Lisbon and with COVID-19, Women in Tech, that is a global movement, and we are supported all over the countries by our network. We are trying to do some programs to attract these young people and also to lead programs to the minorities, because if technology, it was really a role that was difficult to women to be involved with in a normal way. With COVID, we found that the women need to stay at home, to be with the kids for the new normal, as they said. And some of them faced layoffs and faced some difficult to return back to the previous jobs. So we're trying to build programs and build strategies with other communities in Portugal to offer them the way to get back into the work again and using technology as a driver. So we are developing a lot of communications with the communities that are working with refugees here in Portugal also. The barrier they face it nowadays is more the language rather than other things. They need digital skills, it's true, but the most barrier is the language. And we're trying to build programs with these communities and with the government to offer them programs that they can get into a training in the companies and be integrated with the companies. We also have some programs with the Founder Institute in Lisbon, that is now Founder Institute in Portugal, that we have a scholarship for women in tech, that every woman can, the requisite is just be a woman and wants to be entrepreneur. And we know that a lot of refugees has the idea to entrepreneur in the new countries, right? But sometimes they don't have the skills, or they don't know how to. And this program, this scholarship that the Women in Tech offers with Founder Institute in Lisbon, gives the way to provide all the skills and the tools to build, to be an entrepreneur and to register their company in Portugal. It's really a really good program, and everybody can join. So if you know anyone and any refugees or anybody in the community in Portugal that wants to attend this scholarship, we have one vacation free to this semester on this. But what we found here is that if it is difficult to women to be in tech and to use technology and digital skills to be on this role and function and be a woman at home, I imagine and I can tell some of the gaps that we found in the refugees. They have a lot of barriers to be integrated in the community, and here the communities, what we're trying to do with Women in Tech is to build a network to facilitate that. Any question, Anila?
Okay, thank you. It was quick. You were into your time. I think we will have so many questions, but we are saving this all for the round 2. And you already mentioned the barriers, which is one is language, one is the opportunities there, but why this migrant and refugee woman couldn't able to receive or access to this opportunity. So we would like to discuss in our second round, where will we have a moderator Ifatro scale. So we are just encouraging all the panelists to have this question, and especially for the attendees who are attending our webinar, to ask everyone this kind of question, because here we are also coping together, but also trying to identify the gaps, why are the barrier, what is the opportunity. And each and every panel in this, I when I was having a preparatory call, I found there's so many opportunities and trainings, but why it's not going through to those really community. So thank you so much for your talk. So I would like to ask Christina if she is ready. So hi, Christina. So we are looking forward for your talk, because you are a stateless person and you are living in France. And when we were having talk with you, you share how you try to and still trying to make this tool of digitalization and this tech for your advocacy. And we're looking forward to hear from your talk how you are turning this opportunity for a difficult cause of statelessness, which is really true, very real. So over to you, Christina.
Yeah. Thank you, Anila. So as you asked us to correct you, my name is Christiana, so it was almost correct. And I'm not in France, unfortunately, but in Germany, in Munich. And yes, so you already mentioned a bit about it. I think before really going into detail about what State-Free World is about, I think it makes sense to share a bit of context and background to me, because this is pretty fundamental to the initiative itself. So I'm right now in Germany, in Munich, and that's actually also where I've always been. So my parents migrated to Germany 27 years ago, and I was born here. But despite the fact that I was born in Germany, I never had and also still don't have a German nationality. And I also don't have another nationality, so that makes me a stateless person. And I'm not sure who is familiar with the term itself, so I'll just briefly explain. In general, statelessness can have various impacts, and there are different criteria to it, but the main element of it is that as a stateless person, you are not recognized as a citizen by any nation. So you're not a national of any country. And that's the fact that also concerns me. So I'm also stateless. And the thing is that when being stateless, you often lack the access to basic human rights. So that means that a lot of stateless people don't have access to school education. They maybe have struggles to open a bank account. They maybe have lack of access to public health services, and traveling is also a big issue. So when growing up, actually, statelessness was always a topic, but not the number one priority for us, because number one priority was education and health insurance. And I'm lucky enough that in Germany, actually, you can get those things if you have asylum and at some point a residence permit. So that was what we had. So having a nationality felt like a first world problem to me, actually, because I had education, so that's okay. I felt like that at least. And then you get older, and at the age of 18, I got my first passport. And at some point you start having to administrate your own life, obviously, and then you need to register for things. And what I noticed then, the more I had to take care of my own life, that I'm often asked for my nationality. And I didn't have information about that because I don't have one. But then again, people and authorities are not too familiar with the term statelessness. So I researched a bit, and I was actually also very embarrassed about the fact that I know so little about statelessness, although I myself am impacted by it. But that was also mainly because there is so little information in the internet. So the thing is that in the end, the digital world is simply a translation of our real world into the internet. And something that is very invisible in the real world is obviously also very invisible in the internet. So what happened is that I just had a hard time finding information. But at some point, I decided that I need to actually find out everything. So I had set this goal to find this one single source of truth, because I was sure, because I myself have a background in media and communication. So I was convinced that there is an institution or an organization that knows everything, but they're maybe not as good as they should be in distributing the information. So I was more persistent this time and tried to find this single source of truth. And obviously I didn't find it. But I found out a lot of other things. And for example, what I found out is that there are a lot of people who are affected by this, because up until then, I thought me and my sisters that we were the only ones. But actually alone in Europe, there are 500,000 people are stateless. So I found out that this is a big problem, actually. And I also found out that there are organizations that are actually working on the topic. So for example, UNHCR is actually approaching the topic to some extent, but then there are also nonprofits that are solely focusing on statelessness, such as the ENS, European Network on Statelessness, and the ISI. And that was good information, but at the same time, it was kind of confusing to me, because me as a stateless person, it took me several months to even learn about those organizations. And I was missing one basic thing, and that was kind of the connection of everything. So I felt like everything was very distributed. There was knowledge and there was information, but it was very hard to find. So I felt like it might make sense to actually take it into my own hands. And I then decided to build a platform to connect and to build this connection and to actually build this bridge between stateless people and their allies, meaning organizations and nonprofits and lawyers and so forth. And the thing is, I started that a couple of months ago, before COVID-19, and I didn't have, so I'm doing this on top of my regular job. So I spend some hours on it on a regular basis, but not too much. And the thing is that now with COVID-19, the urgency to actually have such kind of platform and a forum to connect and share experiences with each other and share stories and knowledge with each other is actually increasing, because now that the information is mainly available in the internet, you don't have like this face-to-face exchange. So what happens is that oftentimes when there is information about where to get public health service, for example, how to actually get access to those things that are offered to nationals. Oftentimes the authorities don't specifically mention what happens to stateless people. So the thing is, it's not explicitly mentioned, so it's again excluded from the information. So even if they have access to internet and they have devices, it's very hard to understand whether they're even allowed to access those. Then there's this very, very basic lack of trust, actually, and also risk and fear that one might get deported, because stateless people might be scared that information might be shared with immigration authorities and so forth. So now that all of those topics are arising, there's a higher urgency for the platform itself. And that's actually where I am now trying to build up my own skills, because I'm not a developer, so I'm doing it on my own right now. But I hope that I will actually have the ability to build this platform very quickly. And I have support from various organizations, because I hope that as soon as this platform is available and as soon as people can register to it, that it helps to connect with each other. It obviously won't solve all the problems, but it will at least facilitate and provide a platform for people to have conversation and share with each other what they need in order to support each other.
Thank you, Christiana. It's really amazing, and I'm so happy you share your experience, because that's what we are trying to learn from each other and to share, to listen. Because this COVID, especially this kind of pandemic, is also a opportunity. They magnify the problems, the actual reality, what's happening, what is inclusive, what is not inclusive, and how we can spot on that discrimination and discrimination and equality is really absent. You can feel there is no equality, and it's really important what you said. We're so happy, and please stay in tune. As I said, it's really important to have a interactive question Q&A session in a round 2. So before inviting to my next speaker, I really want to share my recent incident, because as we are hearing from our panelists, they are sharing about the importance of language, the importance of technologies, understanding. And if you are IT person or not IT person, it does not require. So a few days ago, I have one guest, and we went to Rotterdam because I live in Netherlands. And there we were sitting in a restaurant, and we are waiting to waiter to come, and we place the order, and we are waiting, and no one came. And I said, what a rude place is this? This is a famous restaurant in Rotterdam, and why you are not going? And then suddenly my daughter, she's 16 now, and she said, Mama, look on your side, this is one brochure, and they're saying you have to go to this code and you have to order on your mobile. And I said, oh my God, like, I'm educated. I know the technology a little bit, but still this kind of information which is there, but because I am not this is new normal for me, I become like absent from to access this information and to this technology. So this is actually happening, this pandemic, how they're causing us to realize who has the understanding of these available services and who's knows. So by sharing this experience, I would like to put this more burden to Caroline Williams to share her expertise, because she is based in Europe, and she's doing a great skill lab and the do good only company. And I have more expectation to listen her experience, what she's offering. So Caroline Williams, thank you so much for joining us today, and over to you.
Thank you, Anila. I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you today so that you have because I put some slides together because I'm a techie, and everybody knows that if you put stuff in PowerPoint, it's true. And if you really want people to believe that it's true, you then publish your PowerPoint as a PDF to make it even more double valid, if you will. And I want to touch for a minute on closing the digital divide and how what digital citizenship means for people overall, and how it's more than just a conversation about using technology and accessing technology. It's about the way we include everyone in technology and how we provide those opportunities to make sure that we're not, to go to Christiana's point about example of statelessness, that we're not creating an entire stateless digital population as well. Maybe what's important for you to know is that I'm the founder of the Do Good Only company, and this is my community. So you can take, I think picture speaks louder than words. This is from in February with our last group in Rotterdam, if you recognize the skyline. And we just added another group 3 days ago. We started with the next group. So this is, if you will, a whole lot of people with suddenly having access to technology and skills and becoming digital citizens that prior to that was a little bit complicated and not really part of their future because it's not really thought about. What is digital citizenship? And digital citizenship is very simply somebody who has the access and the ability and the right, and the right doesn't need to be given necessarily by a government, but the right in terms of for themselves to be able to engage in our society, in politics, in government, with tools and access. So whether that's a Wi-Fi connection or an internet connection, a mobile device, the knowledge of how to operate the mobile device or to click on the QR code, the means to be included, and more services and more the information channels are also going over to digital if they're not already. And if we're not designing and including and making sure that everyone can be a digital citizen, then we are amplifying, we are making the digital divide even greater. It also has to do with online safety and how do you react online, and do you have, is it normal to expect that people are nastier or you'll be bullied more online than you would be in person? No. All of these things are a key part of what we need to look at when we look at digital citizenship and how we go to build that within our societies. If you look at what the big important themes are for digital citizenship, it's these 9. And don't worry, I'm gonna, like I said, give the deck to Anila and Razan afterwards so they can distribute and you can click on everything and dig further. But I wanted to give you a sort of frame of reference. And when you look at these 9 areas of or these themes of digital citizenship, you can already see where women are being left out, and migrant women even further. So when we talk about things like health and welfare, when we talk about things like rights and responsibilities, when we talk about communication and collaboration, all of these things are key ways of where if you are not included, decisions will be made for you instead of with you. And that can happen in the family group, that can happen in the larger societal group, that can happen in terms of in the national group, in all of these different arenas. So these are areas that we need to be conscious of and thinking about. Are we making sure that we are opening the doors to digital citizenship for all along these areas with specific consideration per population? You know, it's very different for somebody who has all of the devices and feels free to travel wherever they want, and they have all of the resources to do so. They probably think of themselves, I'm a digital nomad, or I'm a digital native, you know. Doesn't everybody have this? What do you mean you don't all have internet? And I think that the recent pandemic behaviors have severely brought to light the differences between who has access and who doesn't. And it's up to us to take that knowledge and bring that forward to transform how we look at that. There's some things that you can do about it individually and how you can be part of it without having to be, you don't have to be a techie. But one of the first and most important things is educating yourself. And that is something that each individual must make a decision for themselves. There can be all of the programs and resources, but if you don't make the choice yourself that education is of value to you, and this particular knowledge is of value to you, nobody can help you no matter how much we want to. We can hold the door open for you, but you've got to walk through it. Part of that also means then you carry that knowledge with you to others. So we know that in our lab program, and this is a debate we have every time, my digital marketing intern loves digital media. And I'm like, but I tell her that's just not how we attract people. People come to our program because they know somebody who went to our program 3 cohorts ago, and they have a job and they have a success. And we always say we are opening the door for someone else. And that's the same thing that we can all do. Make sure that if you have knowledge, you're sharing it. Make sure that if you are in the space of providing services or platforms or access, you're building with your community. So you're building with the community that you want to serve instead of for them. Often the thought is, and it's well-intentioned, but often the thought out of initiatives is, I am building this platform for, and because they need this. Well, it's more importantly to build with and have the people that you want to be your end users be part of the whole process with you. Also understand how important it is offline and what the values are offline. Not everything needs to be online. You see it in mental health research that lots of people, when they start to compare themselves or they become overwhelmed by online lives, they don't understand that everything that's online is curated, and it's curated by people or by algorithms. there's not everybody, no one has a perfect life all the time, but technology can help us make it look like we do. And this has an impact on mental health of others as well. Again, don't import or export, don't build with, bring it locally, bring it into the community themselves so that they are the owners of the solution. They are the owners of the conversation, and they will see it grow through to the next iteration, the next problems that it will solve. Make sure that you're advocating for equality. This is also really important from the organizational perspective. You cannot create two levels of citizenship, that we have data that we collect. We have data standards that we collect for people who are covered by GDPR and who are not in a population. And then we have different data privacy standards, for example, for who we collect from migrant, people who are migrating. It doesn't work that way. You need to advocate for equality all the way through. And if you are part of an organization or you have connected to an organization, make sure that you're not practicing things like digital colonialism, imperialism, or other extractive behaviors. But that's a whole nother talk that I can go into, but it basically means that you are doing it from a very paternal level and you're taking a lot of stuff out and you're not creating. It's extractive, it's capturing the resources. Some places that you can educate yourself. If you're looking for basic computer skills and language skills, Oefenen.nl for the Netherlands is a really great resource for getting started on a very basic level. There's lots of once you're ready to step up into going further and you want to explore things, there's things like Coursera and Udemy, where there's always a degree that's free. And one of the biggest ways to open doors to yourself is to be willing to explore. Very few people get up in the morning and say, this is the type of technology person I'm going to be. The best technologists are curious. The best, they go through and they look and they decide and they try a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of this. It's kind of like if you go to a party and everybody's brought food, most of the time you're not going to stick only on one dish. You're going to be like, oh, that looks good. I'm going to go try that. Ooh, that was a little spicy. I'll go there again, but carefully. This is the same thing with technology. Explore, and it's constantly changing. If you're in the Netherlands, there's a site called Techiewoorden. And at the moment, it's only in Dutch, but a browser can translate it for you. And it gives it gives an overview of all of but a lot of the programs that are in the Netherlands that are related to learning different types of technology. Because if you go to the gemeente or the municipality or your caseworker, often they're just going to look at you and be like, tech? No way, maybe you should learn the language first. Again, that's another conversation. And our program is the Skills Up Lab, and you can always come and ask me for resources or where you can go and learn something. Yeah, and that's my contact info. So if you are curious about how you could get into tech or want to get into tech, then you can always reach out to me because, I'm pretty accessible in that aspect. And that's what I had. And I think I did it in under 10 minutes.
Yes, you did. Thank you, Caroline. It's really, really important information. And especially I love when you said educate first yourself. And that's what we are trying to do. We are really realizing, and identify our own understanding. Education does not mean you have to read something or you have to write something. Education also means how you can understand your own capacity and gaps. Because in our experience, which we are having our webinars with migrant and refugee women on the European level, or sometime because it's online, so many women also join us globally with us. And we felt there is one corner where they are having these resources. They have these all kind of technologies or training or even upskills labs are there. But the other community who are there making there's a gap. They are not meeting with each other. So that's what we are trying to hear today at New Women Connectors Leading Resilience platform, because offline or online, we really want everyone, especially women, they feel safe and secure. Because if I'm from Pakistan, in our culture, even women, due to the culture or religious barrier or misunderstandings, we do not allow women to have their own picture or even on the Facebook page. So how you can say that kind of culture barriers are there. So how we are understanding their culture barrier, and how we can creating, some kind of accessibility for those communities. So this is really important. Thank you so much. I love to talk more, which I always do, but I really want to hand over to Razan. She come and share my burden, and I'm here, but I will come again after our second round to join with all of you, but I'm here. So Razan, I'd like to invite you to take the lead and invite other speakers. Thank you, everyone.
Perfect.
Razan,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Anila. You asked me to keep the time. I need to keep you on time sometimes. Just saying. But thank you so much, Caroline. I had it was a very, very interesting point what you said about offline and online, and how they need to work together rather than one replacing the other. But now we're gonna go to Anastasia Sikiaridi. I think I'm hoping that I said it right as well. She works with the International Rescue Committee, and we spoke to her before, and they're doing amazing things with the refugees, with the refugee camps, even before COVID. So they were actually considering digitalization even before COVID. So Anastasia, the mic is with you. Please tell us your experience and what you're working on at the moment.
Okay, hi everyone. Let me also share my screen. What I'd like to do is just share a few notes about the organization and the work that we do, and maybe then we can take I will go more into how really COVID and digitalization impacted our programming, and in particular the programming that I'm working on, which is integration programming, so employability support, education, and training. Give me 1 second. Okay, does this work? Slideshow.
Yeah, I think you just need to make it as a full screen or a slide.
Yeah, I'm not very digitally literate, so okay. No, that's not it.
No, it needs to be
here.
Should be
okay. Okay. So yes, I work for the International Rescue Committee. So the International Rescue Committee is a global non-governmental organization. It was founded in 1933, and it's active all over the world in 40 plus countries, and I think about 20 states in the US. So in the US, it works a lot with resettled refugees, resettlement, but also asylum seekers coming in. And globally, there's a lot of programs related to protection, emergency assistance, cash support, education, women protection and empowerment, and other programs. So yes, where we work. So IRC came to Greece in 2015, right? So it's only been, it doesn't seem a lot, but it's only been actually about 5 years that we've been working in Greece. So we started off in Lesbos together in 2015-16, over 1 million refugees passed through Greece. We started off through Lesbos, and then gradually, together with the movement of population, we also went to the mainland. Our programming also adapted depending on what the population was needing. In 2016, the borders closed, the EU-Turkey deal was implemented, and after the 20th March of 2016, there was the geographical restriction on the islands, which creates all of this overcapacity news and media outlets that you're probably reading in the news at these moments. So yes, we have approximately 120,000 refugees and asylum seekers that arrived from 2015-16. In Greece, people think it's a lot. But it's nothing compared to how many refugees, for example, are in Germany, correct? There's 30,400 people of those are just on the island, and 90,000 of those are on the mainland. The islands are not big, and they don't have a lot of capacity to host people. Since 2015-16, also 1/3 of all asylum applications have been from women. This is very much different with the number of beneficiaries that we have in the employability program, where 80 or 90% of beneficiaries are men, which gives you an understanding of how women access these types of services. And the current reception places are really quite full. So we operate in Athens, Lesbos, Chios, and Samos. We work from reception to integration. This means we do reception, emergency response, mental health, child protection, and we also do livelihoods and integration. This is where I work in, and I'll give you a bit more information on that. So livelihoods, the goal of livelihoods program is basically economic empowerment programming. So to support economic independence among refugee, migrant, and vulnerable host community families. And that particularly means through integration into the workforce. So how does this actually work? We have employability support. So we have job counselors, interpreters, support staff. We have entrepreneurship support for people that might be interested in opening a business. And through the portfolio of programs that we have, we might also do cultural orientation training. This might mean life skills, like how do I move around the city? How do I access public services? And even Greek culture, like Greek history, Greek geography. In total, across our employability services and an entrepreneurship service, so direct open services, again, we have a very small number of women participating. This is something that we see not only in our organization, but across other organizations that are doing this type of programming. There's a lot of factors for this region. Okay, so there's gender and ethnic origin and status. They're all kind of crisscrossing and acting as disadvantaged and discriminatory factors for women to access these services. There's also the reason that we address integration and economic empowerment in a very sort of westernized idea of labor market integration, which might not be the same thing for everybody. The truth is that we have a big difficulty in attracting women to our services. Financial also independence is generally difficult because cash assistance, for example, is given to the head of the family. Head of the family is usually the man of the family. If there's one device in the family, now going back to connectivity, the one device of the family will be held by the male of the family. So there's various reasons kind of crisscrossing into this. So COVID happens and suddenly we have to transition everything online. Regardless of how this affected access of migrant women, there was a lot of difficulties in what we were doing. There was difficulty to access information. So refugee women and refugees in general and migrants could not access information that related to COVID, right? They couldn't have access because of language difficulties, digital connection. They couldn't access real-time information on, hey, by tomorrow morning at 7, you have to be indoors or you get a fine. So we had organizations kind of also shift the role. And even though we only provided employability support, we began translating and distributing any kind of messaging that would come out from the central government, anything related to public assistance programs. Refugees did not know what kind of services were available now. So we worked together with other organizations to do a real-time service mapping. Sort of kind of update regularly through a coordination center for refugee issues of Athens, the ACCMR. I will talk about this case study later. This came at a time, COVID came at a time that IRC in Greece launched a project called Refugee Info, which I will talk about a little bit later, which is a mobile-friendly platform. It's also active on Facebook. It has a blog and basically provides information on various languages regarding rights, services, etc., that relate to refugees and asylum seekers. But back to the challenges. Yes, we had to coordinate, we had to access information. The difficulty was also that if we adapt our services, so if we adapt to counseling online, using Zoom, using Skype, using WhatsApp, even trying to use Telegram, how do we do that? Our beneficiaries do not necessarily have connectivity. They might not have access to 3G or Wi-Fi. They might not have access to a device. They might not have literacy. This means reading and writing. But most of all, they might not have digital literacy or technical literacy. So the way that we worked around that was that everything was added. There was an added layer to everything. So we had to learn ourselves to create guides, like how do you create simple and easy to read screenshots, simple and easy to read small videos that kind of show people, okay, if I want you to enter a Zoom call, let's take a step back. How do I actually click on this link that you're sending me on my WhatsApp? What happens afterwards? It's really varied, digital literacy among people that we serve. You might be very digital literate and not be able to open a link on your phone. It was definitely burdensome because we had to redesign everything that we did. A lot of it was focused on in vivo, on the personal connection, of coming close, on this kind of connectivity, on having sort of an experiential learning approach. How do you transition this online, especially when there's already a divide between service provider and person coming from the service? So this was difficult. So we were lucky that our organization offered kind of a best practice sharing and model where we would learn what other people are doing in other countries and how they're adapting to this, not only for our service, but also for our own care. And generally, there was this really big feeling, lack of connectivity. And especially if you're trying to reach a group that you already see is invisible in your service, when we stopped kind of going to the locations and being live, it even became more invisible. But I want to highlight a particular project that we were lucky enough to have relaunched right in April, in the middle of the COVID lockdown in Greece. So Refugee Info is an IRC project that is a mobile platform, so mobile-friendly website. You can access it on your phone. It has a Facebook page. It used to have an application. I'm not sure the application works now. And also it has a blog. So it's available in English, Arabic, Urdu, French, Farsi. I think these languages, I might be missing one, but basically it provides vital information that relates to maybe refugee rights. So what happens with the asylum procedure? How do I get a renewal in my work permit? How do I get a renewal in my asylum card? It has information on services. Where can I learn English? Where can I learn Greek? What is close to my home? It has information, how do I register my kids to school? So it has a lot of information. They're translated in all languages. They use the Facebook, which is very much accessed by this group. Everybody has a phone and social media. And it tries to use a simple language. It works a lot with photos. So it tries to adapt and curate the content to the people that see it. I do want to add that even in Refugee Info, women access it much less than men. Maybe they use less social media, there's less of connectivity, but there's a lot of ideas that have come from this project that I might be interesting to share later. Like if we create safe places in vivo, does that mean we should create safe spaces digitally? Like should there be women-only Facebook groups, or should there be curated content? How do we support that marginalized groups can access even things that we do digitally, which is a different way of thinking about it than doing it in vivo. Yes, I think that's from me.
That's incredible information, actually, Anastasia. Thank you so much for this. And I think we got back to that idea of also like offline and online, because if you want people to actually be online, you need to take that step back and go a bit to more basic information, like how do you actually open the link, or how do you actually get them to be interested even. And it was something similar to what Caroline was saying, that word of mouth is not dead yet. It's never going to be dead, and especially if you want people actually to be interested and to want to access the information. So I mean, Refugee Info is actually really, really, really great. I think personally, being like a Syrian immigrant here in Spain, for example, I think that this should be extended to every country in Europe, because the information is different and it's definitely needed. I see a lot of guides, like there are guides, for example, in I think it was in the UK as well, and in Spain, they provide a lot of information, but they're either in Spanish, or if in Catalonia, it's in Catalan. And the people who are just getting here, they just don't have access to that, even though it's actually available. So that idea that you actually get them to be interested and then introduce it to them in vivo, in person, and then teach them how to use it, and then actually create it in their own language, in Arabic, for example, or in different languages. I think that's absolutely incredible. So thank you so much. There was actually a question, but I think I would like to leave it for the discussion maybe. And then when we start the discussion, I'll remind you of the question that was from Laura. But I want to move on to our speakers, if that's okay, to our speakers from Tech Refugees. We have Josephine Go. I think she joined. I'm not 100% sure. But also we have Rania Youssef, who's a fellow at Tech Refugees, and she's currently involved with Tech for Women program, and she's also an LGBTQ refugee in France, and she would like to share her experience with us. So Rania, please go ahead.
Hi everybody, I'm Rania Youssef. I'm an LGBT refugee and currently staying in France. I would have preferred if Josephine went first because she could explain more about tech refugees better than me. And would that be possible?
We didn't see her yet.
We
here.
don't see her, yeah.
So
I don't know
that's why.
Yeah, I looked for her name first, and then when I didn't see her, I thought maybe you could.
I think she's commenting in the chat. Yeah.
From Laura, okay. I think she probably didn't receive the panelist link. Maybe that's the problem.
Okay, so we'll manage to to put her in the panel. And meanwhile, Rania, why don't you go ahead with your talk?
Okay, so I'm gonna try to explain a little bit how I managed to reach tech refugees and what it's doing. And
sorry, I actually managed to add her as a panelist. So if you wish for her to continue, I didn't know that she logged in through the name of Lara. So sorry about that.
It's okay. She can go first if that's possible.
Josephine, you're a panelist now. Do you want to go ahead? Okay, I'll try to send her again. No, she's actually a panelist. I don't think that she's muted. I'll unmute her maybe.
Oh, hi.
Oh, no, there she is. Yeah.
Hi. Hello. Hi. I could hear and then listen to everything, and I was like, I'm here. I didn't realize that I'd clicked on the wrong link, so my bad. And I made you did really well on like switching back things. It's just my internet was like a bit slow. Thank you so much for giving us time. I'm going to share my screen. I'm not going to share a presentation, though I would love to be saying the same thing as Caroline, but I will leave it to Caroline to be the one with the most credit. Love that, by the way. And I'm going to share with you my screen to give you a bit of, this is our website, basically. So Tech Refugees is an organization that has been running for a while now. We've been going since 2015. We're an international organization empowering refugees with building technology with them, for them, by them. And the idea came that, as a lot of you said, that digital could be a real good potential for access to information services, but do we really care about building technology that is relevant, that actually does the job and gets in the hands of the people and serve their needs? And to not think in a Western way of like how we use computers and how easy things are accessible for us. So we have two objectives. One is to build technology that's relevant to refugees with them, by them. And the second one is to include displaced person. We don't call refugees because it has a connotation of being a status, administrative status. Is any displaced persons. We want to have them included in the tech discussion in the tech industry. So we have programs, employment programs. Now, I want to quickly go to what we did during COVID. So we had to adapt, like a lot of you said. And so we moved online our programming. One of our programming is the Tech for Women. It's an employment program for women to get into tech jobs or the tech industry if you're not a pure tech coder job. And we moved it online. As you saw, Rania is on this program, and she'll explain how it's going for her, but she is having it all online this year and not physically blended. And we had to do that. It's been smooth, and we've been amazed by how easy for the fellows and Rania involved it's been to connect and to engage. And I just want to show you one thing, which is the picture of when they met for the first time. If you can see my screen, that's when after 2 months of programming they met. It was like they already knew each other for a long time, and they were best friends. So it made us like feel relaxed and confident that this program was going well. But we saw how blended is important and how offline needs to be inside this, because at that night and that evening we shared so much more than just the program. Just to say that it's not been so easy, and we had to shift the kind of focus we had when the program was about meeting people and going to different places to meet the physically people in places that are important for the tech industry to know. We shift the program to be sure that, and the way we spend our money, to be sure that the women on this program not only would have hardware, good computers, but have Wi-Fi, a good Wi-Fi access, sending Wi-Fi boxes when needed. And then also to be able to give psychosocial support, mental health support for everyone, and even on our team, though we don't use it, but I think the lockdown was like terrible. And also finally, and the most importantly, and this has not changed, before the COVID, we would pay for the babysitting when a woman would come to our trainings, and transportation for that training. But now we're shifting. We still pay for the babysitting, even if you're at home, because everybody knows that during the lockdown, a lot of women had to face working while the baby is screaming in the back. So we'll continue to do that. But what's been shifting, I guess, I want to talk about the donors and the people that finance our program. Most of them are actually, all of them are private companies, have well understood this thanks to the pandemic, the lockdown. Before that, they were just a bit wondering why we would pay so much for babysitting, but now that it happens to them, they understand. So we're happy. This set aside, just want to give you an overview of the program, how it's laid out on the website. So the program is made of mentoring. So you have mentors that follow you through the program to see your evolution. I think Caroline said it really well. The tech industry is a discovery. You have to be curious. And so we have this mentor to help them through that path and journey. Then we have trainings. So these are very like technical trainings on data science, cybersecurity, digital marketing, and web development. And there are various levels. We personalize the training to the level of the fellow. And then lastly, we have networking events. So for them to collect contacts in those tech companies to get jobs. The result of that program is good. It's really good. We've been doing it for 3 years, and we've had, and you can read the report, we have 80% of people being employed, getting into tech jobs after it in 6 months. We are looking to increase the number of people we can take on. We do this right now in Paris and all over France. Our fellows are in south of France, north of France, east, west, wherever. We're trying to expand in Italy and Greece for next year, just because we think that it's not the easiest places to launch. We had donors asking us to do it in England or Germany, but where the need for us is the most acute is in those places, and so we want to be in those places. And I'm so happy to have had a presentation before of Anastasia, because I want to be like talking with each other on how we can help each other. So I'll keep it here, and Rania can explain more about the program. And I'm so glad that you accepted to get Rania, because she can give you more than just what the fellowship is about, but her perspective. And she has a long experience of using digital for her own life. So I hope she can. Yeah, please, Rania, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone again. So what I wanted to say, how I managed to, what I wanted to talk about is how I managed to find tech refugees, and also how helpful it was for me personally. So I came to find it by chance, which is the LGBT organization sent on the group this interesting scholarship that required a really high level of French, and definitely I wasn't fit for it, but I tried my best. I sent my information, and finally I managed to get in. Um, which takes me to one point, which is how hard it is for women refugees to manage to find these chances and scholarships, or these websites, either because of the language barrier or because of internet literacy. And I'm one of the lucky ones because I managed to understand what was happening in that pamphlet and that description, and try to follow along with it. It's not easy to be able to reach these things. And the point about educate yourself, it's not always a choice. One of the barriers that I saw you, Laura, Josephine, write on the chat, but that was not mentioned so far at all, which is childcare and time. This is not available for moms. I even there was one point where I don't remember who said it, but the money that is support from the government or from these places goes to the head hold. I am the head hold, but at the same time, it's never enough, which takes away from the mental capacity to be able to produce or be able to follow a course on Coursera or Udemy, or have the time and the mental capacity to do so. Um, the other thing is with that tech refugees is basically the first and only chance I ever got to actually turn it into a proper career, because before that I've been trying hard, extremely hard, to learn by myself language, programming languages, and find a time for it, which was absolutely impossible, and it's been taking me literally years, because it's with babysitting, without help in babysitting or childcare or the schools or the pairs or the opera or things like that. There's no time whatsoever to be able to focus on the things we want to create, on the things we want to achieve. Um, which also internet is another barrier. Living in a refugee building, which also obviously became a bigger problem since COVID, because COVID does discriminate. If you're living in a refugee building with one washing machine and one kitchen, you're sharing with everybody, no internet whatsoever, you're basically using your phone's internet, which is limited data, you are completely screwed, basically. The chances of contracting COVID is really high. The chances of poor healthcare is really high, which also takes me to another point, which is our background sometimes do not help us get to scholarships. Not all of us are have the right education to apply for that scholarship or this scholarship, especially in STEM education. Thankfully, that wasn't the case for tech refugees, which is what I'm grateful for. But if I want to pursue my career, for example, in science and STEM, definitely gonna be extremely difficult, and it's gonna take years in order to be able to apply for any proper university or any proper education. It's not that easy. Um, the other thing I wanted to talk about is um, the limitations. Yes, the fact that not all women are capable to join the tech industry. And there's not enough representation in the tech industry to accommodate the needs of migrant women in the system, in the asylum seeking system or refugee system, because basically the internet or a lot of things are tailored for women, for men by men, and it's not reaching out to this blind spot, which is migrant women, or single mom migrant women, and women who don't speak English, women who don't speak uh, definitely internet literacy. I have friends in my building who are moms and trying to find information, but they don't know how to use the phone, they don't know how to use Google Chrome, they don't know how to search for anything. And when you find a website that has a little bit of info that could help them in the opera or the process or to get them anywhere or anything, the website is not user friendly. So it's both, it's everything is playing a factor in this. It's not that easy. Also, I wanted to share one time just an incident that happened with me. When I came to France, I was trying desperately, before I find tech refugees, I was trying desperately to join the programming career and join the tech industry. And I remember I went to Pôle emploi, which is the place where it's responsible for helping you find a job and things like that. And they told me straightforward that you're not going to be able to commit to École 46 because you're a single mom and it's a very hard program. That was one of the things that I'm used to hearing now, that, oh, you're a single mom, you're definitely not going to have the time, which is, it's true in a way, but it's very discouraging. It's extremely discouraging. Like I try my best to find 1 hour in my day or even 30 minutes in my day to be able to study or do what I need to do. But it's extremely difficult running from picking up, dropping off, making dinner, things like that. The other thing is about the digital print. The digital print is a problem from somebody like me who's an LGBT Egyptian refugee. Most of the things that I want to speak about or I want to reach people and break the silence, talk about, are things that could shame me back in my society and could cause a problem. And digital print is impossible to erase unless you're a multimillionaire that's trying to remove a scandal or something like that. But I'm definitely not. And we do have cybersecurity bullying, and we do have cyberbullying online, and it's really terrible when it comes to my part of the world. And it managed to, I lost one refugee friend in Canada because of the cyberbullying, and she ended her life. And this is not a joke. This transparency that is happening on the internet does not always serve women who are running away from persecution and back in their own countries. So it's a minefield that we're trying to, for us women in tech or that are refugees, it's a minefield for us to reach where we want, either with the biases or the barriers or the time or childcare or internet or the living conditions to be able to get anywhere. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is about being an entrepreneur in general. I have tons of ideas and projects that I would love to start working on from today, but entrepreneurship in tech industry is risky and it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of funds and a lot of time. And if we ever see the successful platforms online, you always find this curve of the developer trying and failing and trying and failing, and one works and the other doesn't work. We don't have that. We don't have that capacity to risk time or money. And this is why I think the industry is still ruled by men, because they have this capacity to fail and succeed, while we don't. We have to plan our steps really carefully because everything is super precious and we can't really lose anything. And I think that's about it for me.
No, thank you so much, Rania. Really, firstly, shout out to Sarah Higazi. She's the LGBTQ yes. who ended her life. That was actually, that has started a really good conversation in the Arabic world especially about cyberbullying. But it's really good to hear your point of view, actually, because we're talking to women in tech who actually are trying to create solutions. But it's really important to hear your point of view as a refugee, because those solutions should be directed to you, and we need to know your problems as well. Yeah, tech refugees probably is the only. I I know many, especially.
Really?
Yeah, I'm saying the only one I know of. I know a lot of people who try to support you, especially with entrepreneurship, etc. But it really is something that we need to consider. And when all of the people in tech are men, they're not going to understand this necessity. So we do need more women in tech, definitely, because we need to consider all of these factors. I would like to call to the stand, to the mic, Sandra Thompson. So she's an emotional intelligence coach, and I'm personally very, very excited about what she has to say about this particular topic, because I think that emotional intelligence, it has a lot to do with probably the interest in tech. Personally, I think there's a psychological factor to it that a lot of women don't actually get involved, perhaps, or they don't take the first step towards it. I think, especially with the language, if they don't know English, they're tensed up, and they don't it's like being dyslexic, almost like they can't really understand the information probably, and that discourages them to join the tech world. So I'm hoping that you're gonna talk about this. But Sandra, please go ahead, you have the mic.
Thank you. Well, firstly, let me thank all of you for having me here today. It's quite a different lens I'm going to be taking for this particular session. Yeah, absolutely, I'm an emotional intelligence coach, but what is that? So ultimately, what that means is that I spent about a year and a half training with a guy called Daniel Goleman, who wrote a few books about emotional intelligence. And when you drill down, it basically means understanding and being able to manage your emotions. And when you're able to understand and manage your emotions, you are more likely to influence the emotions of others. And let's just think about that just for a second in the world of tech, because I've heard behavioral scientists talk about how with technology being so advanced, so connected, humans, our species, are wondering where our place is. And the phenomenal thing about everything I've heard so far is that we're human. And the way that we express emotion, either through our voice, through the tone of our voice, whatever language we're speaking, through the facial expressions that we give, through the body language that we show, we are giving off signals all of the time. And there's massive lessons for us all to learn in this area of emotion, because ultimately, and Caroline was talking about this earlier too, which I thought was fantastic, this point around offline and online. When we're programming, whoever is designing and creating whatever, if they are in touch with their emotions, if they're able to manage those emotions, it might just be that things are for a greater good, that things are about emotional connection. So what I want to share with you for a few minutes is really a few bits and pieces that I've learned around neuroscience, and a few things that you might want to think about practicing. I've certainly learned to practice them a bit more. I do recall a long time ago failing my computer studies O-level. Now that is a long time ago, and my mindset was absolutely can't do technology. My amygdala within my brain would just go, no, not technology. But it's only been since I've learned emotional intelligence that I've managed to just calm down. And I've been able just to calm down the amygdala within my brain to stop me from panicking because something isn't working, to enable me to take just a few more moments to give it another go. So I guess one of the things I want to invite you to think about, everyone that's on this call, is whether or not you might journal. So just writing down a few things about how you're feeling. Certainly this is something that I did when I first started doing more remote work, relying on more technology. If something wasn't working, I assumed it was my fault. I assumed that I'd done something wrong. I assumed that it was broken and that I just couldn't do it anymore. But actually by writing down what that meant and how I felt about it, and just breathing, just taking a few deep breaths, I was able to go back to it and I was able to make it work. So that's one thing. That's one technique you might want to use if you're finding that something isn't working out and you feel like you're not capable. Everyone is capable if you can just believe that you can do it and take a few moments, take a step back and get on with that. Now, I coach and I also teach. I teach at a school in London, and I've had to switch from teaching face-to-face to teaching online. And the actual amount of data that I get from students by just seeing their faces on the screen, how I can watch their body language, how I can build rapport with them because I can see things behind them. You'll see a bunch of books behind me. You might even see a few photographs behind me too. Using techniques like observation, using the opportunity to say, oh no, she's got quite a few books there. Tell us about that. Opportunities to build rapport, to build a connection with other people. Now, I realize that many of us here have got a screen up. I didn't have a green screen, so I didn't manage to do that. But being able to make connections in this virtual world is really, it's an opportunity for us. I can see some flowers just popping up there behind Claudia. And I think that might be Sophia Loren, in fact, perhaps, if there's some nodding there, maybe, maybe not. She's going to move the flowers. So when we think about technology, when we think about technology, thank you. When we think about technology and we think about what it is to be human, let's have a think about tonality, even in the voice. You don't have to see the face to understand more about what's going on with someone. There's some recent science that actually says in call centers, when they don't actually have the person in front of them, but they close their eyes, they are more able to accurately describe the emotion the other person feels because they are tuned to it. So that's about the speed at which you're speaking, the emphasis you put on whatever language you're speaking. And imagine that if you were able to ask a question just by saying, oh, that seems really important to you, or I'm sensing that this might be an issue for you, or that might be exciting. Again, technology is only as good as the human connection you put within it, because it's an enabler. So I guess my message to you really on this short session is to say, if you're able to take a moment to understand how you're feeling, to understand what emotion is happening in your body, then it's highly likely you'll be far more effective at reading emotion with others. That's one part. The second part is, and it's proven through neuroscience, that if you write down just a few notes every day, just reflecting back on the day and thinking about some high emotions that may have come up, they would be good or they might be bad. They might be, as you might describe them, they're not actually good or bad, but they are either positive or they might not serve you. Making a note of those, and you might see some patterns around things that cause you anxiety, things that might be frustrating for you, things that might bring you huge joy. And when you're able to identify those, it might be that something, you just need to work on that thing just a little bit longer to switch your mind, to make sure that you can reframe it potentially as an opportunity and not as a threat. And that's where I was 18 months ago with using tech. I saw it as a threat because I didn't know how to use it. I thought I wasn't able, but then once I'd written down a few things, I was much more capable of reframing it. The last couple of things I just want to talk about is I've started a new business with someone who I have never met. I've never met her. This is 6 months ago, and this is, for me, quite unusual. But I can tell you now, and I think that some others were talking about how they've met a bunch of people they've been talking to for quite a while, and it's like they were long time friends. Because we take an interest, because how we ask how one another are, how we check the context of what's going on, how we pick up on the tonality of what one another is saying, some of the language that we use video, we use text, we use a whole bunch of different channels in order to communicate. We have a really good relationship already. So I leave you with that. Emotions are wonderful if we know how to tap into them. Emotions are the driver of the technology that's coded. Emotions are the thing that connect us all as human beings. And if we're able to understand what's happening within ourselves and to make sure we manage those emotions, and if we're able to read the emotions of others, I think we can make technology an amazing enabler for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandra. I'm a big fan of this topic, actually, because I've seen it in a lot of people, probably myself as well. And I think it is a massive, massive barrier for refugee and migrant women when they actually leave their home, leave everything that's familiar to them, and go to a country they don't know the language. Their brain just tenses and they can't really understand. And that happens with technology as well. And that's why I was like really excited about what you're gonna say about it, because I think a part of the recruitment, if we want to recruit women in tech, or if we want to give them accessibility, like what Anastasia is doing with the integration program, I think that we do need to talk about this. We need to actually consider this side, the psychological, the emotional side of things. It's as basic as telling them, oh, well, you need to click that button, but also you need to not be afraid of it. It will work. Just take a deep breath and do it again in a few minutes. I think that would help them unlock that potential, because we all can. We all are capable 100%. I think we just need to manage those emotions that come with the start. So thank you so much for your valuable contribution. And I mean, that's it. We had Leticia, but she couldn't make it, unfortunately. So I want to leave you with Effat. Effat Rose, she's the founder and you're the CEO of the Code to Change, and she's a valuable member of New Women Connectors. I think she's known Anila for a long, long time. So you can moderate the discussion, and it's, I mean, everybody's welcome to join the discussion, ask questions in the Q&A or the chat, and we'd be more than happy for all our panelists to answer. So go ahead, Effat.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the lovely introduction. Indeed, I've been a long time supporter of New Women Connectors, and it's an honor to be part of this webinar today. Yes, I'm the founder and the CEO of Code to Change. It's a tech academy, which is this year we've been placed on the official talent ecosystem by City of Amsterdam. We're based in Amsterdam, of course, headquartered in Amsterdam. And we're also working on building the skills, specifically digital skills of women in the emerging economies in Global South. And now I'm working on an AI-powered platform to connect talent from Global South to female entrepreneurs or female-led businesses all over the world. So that was a short introduction. I've been listening to all your presentations and I've been making notes. This is just so vibrant. I can't wait to ask my questions, but I think before we start inviting our attendees for questions, I would like to quickly ask some of the questions that I have for the panelists, just to start the discussion. And I think in a nutshell, what we are going to be focusing on in this part is why is it so hard for us, either as tech academies, to have access to these disadvantaged groups. And I think I would like to start here with one of our first panelists, Christiana. Claudia was the first one. Christiana, who is actually one of those women that we are trying to target or trying to bring into the tech ecosystem. She made a very interesting point here about having a nationality versus having education. And this really highlights the importance of having access to both education and skill, of course, for women in this day and age. And Christiana, I would like to ask you, your education and skill, what role did it play, you think, in your opinion, in your career journey?
Yeah, Thank you, Ifat. It played a very, very big role, obviously. I actually feel like the older I get, the more grateful I am for my parents to actually focus so much on education, because now that I'm older and I have a comprehension of what is actually happening in this world, it's kind of crazy how they convinced us that everything is possible. And obviously, as a Black person, growing up in Germany was very white dominated. So I feel like the fact that I have the education which I have and the skills I have, luckily or also unfortunately, but they give me the chance to prove to my environment and to my surrounding that I am actually worth the same amount. I just have the same worth as the other people in my surroundings. So it helped me a lot getting a job, and helped me to convince people that I actually know what I'm saying, and that me being Black or me not being German doesn't take away from the fact that I can contribute to a society. And also in regards to nationality, actually, I am still convinced about the fact that my education is even more important because I don't have a nationality. And we were confronted with a situation not too long ago, actually. A few weeks before COVID also hit Germany, we were actually confronted with the struggles we had with our residence permit. So we were actually having struggles keeping it because they wanted to take it away. So that was a situation in which I was very much confronted with the fact that, okay, I could wake up tomorrow and not have a residence permit in Germany anymore. And at the beginning, I was, of course, obviously very scared. And then you try to think about, okay, where would I live? How would my life actually turn out to be if I wouldn't be in Germany? Because I'm very much aware of the privilege I have in this country. But at some point, I just kind of let that go and realized that, yes, a country and state authorities could, of course, take away my nationality or take away my status of statelessness. But then again, they couldn't take away my education. So as long as I have what I've learned and I have the ability to learn something new, and I have digital skills, at least to some extent, I know how to access information. So even in another country, I would still be able to, even if I would start from scratch, I now realize that my education gives me the opportunity to build a life for myself.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think I have a similar question to Rania. Rania, I hope you're still there. Rania has been part of Tech Fugees, and she also made a very important point, and I think it's similar to what Christiana also said. Refugee women find it hard to access these programs, the very few that may be that are targeted for them. And I think what I really liked in your presentation, how you framed it, is not all of us are as resourceful to be able to find those application forms and to be able to fill them. And of course, this question is again going to be asked from our other panelists who are actually designing those programs or running those programs. But what, in your opinion, needs to be done for us to reach more women like you, Rania, in your opinion?
For me, it's all about a network, but the problem with the networks in online or either offline, that is not available for all women, especially the women that have internet literacy, which probably, hopefully, word of mouth would come and substitute in that aspect. But what if it's not? There must be offices or an actual physical place where women would be able to go to and ask for help and ask for resources, because even this whole world of internet is not available for everybody. It's just not available for everybody, and I'm one of the lucky ones. As I said, it's and when it comes, for example, emotional intelligence and being risky and keep trying and trying and trying and keep trying hard to get these, where this is a luxury in a way, because it's super easy as a woman, for example, to just give up, which is an option that I thought of, is just give up of my own education and just focus on my son, because my entire life revolves around the child anyways. So it's all about connecting, and I don't think there's enough platforms to connect women in general, or at least they're not accessible, or not easy, they're not user friendly, or they're not available in the refugees language. So all of these things are a barrier playing a factor in it. And we need women, refugee women in tech, to be able to tailor something like that for refugee women that are outside of tech. This is, I think,
Thank
is
you.
the way.
Thank you so much. So you think that the neighborhood community centers or structures like these that do exist in a lot of the European countries, so even if they do exist, they may not be accessible to women of color who might be interested to make use of them?
There are lots of let me just give one of my experiences. For example, like whenever I go to any, this was a big problem for me. Whenever I go to any French organization, let's say, not that it's tailored, not that it's a private organization that's helping refugee, I'm talking about the governmental ones. There is a prejudice against the fact that I don't speak French, for example. And it creates this barrier of like, why are you here? What are you doing? Why are you a refugee? Why do you deserve it? You don't deserve it. Other people who need it. And there's also, this is a language barrier. Definitely one of the biggest issues is a language barrier. And this is something that I encountered, and a lot of people in my building who are Iraqi, Pakistani, from African countries, if they speak French, okay, they might be able to access some of these things. If don't speak French, like in my case, it's not really helpful. It's completely useless. And yeah, there's always prejudice. There's, of course, the other thing is some people here or in that are supposed to be helping us, they expect us to act in a certain way that fits the refugee stigma of like, oh, please, s'il vous plaît, I'm weak, I'm tired, my life is blah, 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 and I need to be begging in order to get a server like that, which is not something that I'm really good at. I'm just, if this is a server that's a service you're supposed to be giving to me, then I have the right to take it. But this is not how it works. The refugees, or especially refugee mothers or women of color, they're expected to behave in a more submissive way in order to be taken seriously as a refugee.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that insight. As a side note, Razan, please ping me if I'm going over time, because this is just, I think this is just gonna get interesting. More interesting.
Exactly. I do not want to. I'm really enjoying the experiences, and the questions that you're asking are really important. So, I think that we
Please do ping me so we don't go over time. Okay, Claudia, you also made some really, really interesting points, and especially about the self-confidence gap, which is related to, again, some of the points that have been brought up again and again is language skills versus the digital skills. What is it in your opinion? And allow me, please, if I can just ask my questions to all the panelists that I intend to ask, so that you can prepare your answers while Claudia answers hers. Why do you think that these programs that exist are not reaching these disadvantaged groups like refugee and migrant women? This is the same question to you. And I think my question to Anastasia from IRC after this is something on the same lines. You presented the project refugee.info, and I'm very interested if you have any stats about the percentage of people that are accessing the people who it is targeted for. What do the numbers look like, and what is the percentage of women accessing it, and what kind of strategies do you think you're working with or experimenting with to increase that access? And then I have a question for Caroline. Very interesting point about digital citizenship. You did manage to include women of color in your programs, and I'll be very interested to talk to you about how you managed to do that, and what kind of strategies are you using or planning to use in the future to make sure that that number remains relatively high. So first of all, I would like to go to Claudia to hear about her views on this.
Claudia, we can't hear you actually. I'm not sure what's wrong with your mic. No.
Oh. almost. Okay, shall we go to Anastasia in the meantime?
Can you hear me now?
Okay,
perfect.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. As I said before, so one of the things that I said that is a barrier for the women, refugees or migrants or displaced people, as you wanted to call it, or minority groups that came to Portugal, is the language barrier. So we saw that we have a lot of communities over here that helps the refugees. Portugal, it was always known as welcoming refugees since the Jewish people back in the Second World War. And they transform and teach us a lot about economies and entrepreneurship, and they did a lot for our country, also in economic reasons. But nowadays, in a self-paced environment where we saw that everything is technology, we don't have one single point of truth where they can just access instantly in the web to all programs existing, whole communities, and how can they help. The language barrier leads women to be in the companies, and we have a lot of companies that welcoming refugees and welcoming women refugees with kids, but in the labor, in the work, it's more manual than digital. Okay, so it's easy to overcome that gap from the language because you just put that person to do some work that she can easily interact and learning the language as long as she's working. In a technical and digital world and tech world, we need to speak up with other countries, with other people, with people around us. So beside the digital technologies that they need to learn, they need also to learn the languages. What we are trying to do is to create programs to put these persons and women in the companies that have international culture, that talk the language adopt inside the environment is English, because it's more universal and it's more easy to teach rather than Portuguese, and have a cultural environment of remote work also. So to give a balanced life for moms and for women that are the natural carers of the family. So for me, what I see why women don't are so attracted to these programs is because they find the language barriers. They don't seem to find a single point of truth for all programs and how can they be helped. As Rania said, I don't find the time because I'm a mom and I need to prepare the dinner and I need to provide my family. So I need to work, provide my family, and I don't have the time and the money to put my ideas on the paper and go live. So for that, we are trying to build programs and a single point of truth where they can just go to the companies that are welcoming refugees and are welcoming refugees with programs and training programs that they can be there like 6 months and then be a full employee for that company. And giving the opportunity to also to put their ideas on the place online. They don't need to put the kids with another person to take care of, and to help with scholarships to be entrepreneurs. So Rania, we have a scholarship for Founder Institute Lisbon in Portugal. If you want to talk to me later, please just let me know because it's open. Okay, but it's the main thing. It's the language barriers and the single point of truth to go there. And people, it's easy to put in the place that it's manual work rather than have a data scientist ready to work, right? The fit for job, it's not really 100%. So we need to create programs to give them that expert. And Microsoft is doing a great job in Netherlands, for instance, because they are giving training to women, to refugees, and they train and give certificates and put those women on work. And I think in Netherlands are 200 refugees that women that already took that training. So if we can, my last conversation with my teammates, my ambassadors from Women in Tech all over the world, it was like, if you know that program that we can just transpose to another countries and do that work with refugees in our countries, it will be great, because that with that we can overcome this gap. And the self-confidence, as Rania said, I don't have the time, and if I fail, what I should do with my family and my work. So you just need to do that meditation and that thinking that we can do everything. You just need to stop complaining and do an action and take an action on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your insights on that. And I can kind of understand where Rania is coming from in terms of entrepreneurship and the status of female participation and female funding. It's hard anyway for women in general, let alone women in color. But let's talk about that in a little bit, because I do want to get my answers from the panelists. In the meantime, my request to the attendees or anyone joining us through Facebook, if you have any questions, please leave us in the chat. Do feel free to participate if you have any questions for the panelists. Anastasia, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Please go ahead.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm really interested to know what are the strategies you would be willing to experiment with to make sure that that problem with access is addressed.
Okay. So regarding refugee info, I do want to state that this is not the project I'm working with, but it's quite familiar to me. So as I mentioned before, there was a small gap in the program. So it was very active between August 2017 and August 2019, and then there was a small stop, and it was relaunched this April with coronavirus information. So according to statistics that were gathered at the time, between this 2-year period, refugee info in Greece, Italy, and the Balkans had almost like 500,000 unique users. This means that individuals who had accessed the site via any of the platforms, this is Facebook, mobile data, Facebook, the mobile website, or the app. In Greece, the refugee info strategy was mainly Facebook. So you create content on Facebook, which is posted as Facebook post, translated in all languages. So during the time that it was active in Greece, I don't have more recent data, it could have up to 6,000 users per month and even 14,000. So these are users on Facebook, so Facebook users. And the number of women users, again, I didn't really do the data collection. I'm not sure how you do analytics like this for media, for websites, etc., was approximately 15%. So I do want to add that there was a second point in refugee info constantly improved the way that it was communicating messaging. So in addition to curating content, it also has a team of moderators. So moderators are people from the community that speak the same language that can answer to private messages. So for example, I'm a woman and I want to ask a question. I want to register my kid to kindergarten. I ask it in Arabic, and a moderator in my own language, talking with the content creator of refugee info, will find a way to respond. There's a response time, you have to address a certain response time, and we try to answer in every question that is given to us with up-to-date and accurate information. This is the main goal of refugee info. And I think there's a lot of lessons that were learned through the program. Like in the beginning of the program, maybe the French moderator was not from West Africa, but maybe the majority of users were from West Africa, and they expressed that the moderator when they spoke to the moderator, they did not feel that it was a member of their community. I think the same holds for other marginalized groups trying to access digital platforms. So it's important I think Facebook and sort of private messaging and private groups like this can create a sort of space, but it's important that the messaging is curated for the community. And having sort of, I see this all the time with Facebook groups of expats wanting to have a group for single mothers in Athens, a group for women between 30 and 40 in Athens. I think this type of thing should also be considering when we're considering digital communication, because now we're all communicating this way, and it's actually easier to find somebody like you and to find inspiration and be connected online than it is when you go outside in a city that are very new and you don't know anyone.
Thank you so much. So I think the general idea is that you go and find your target group in places where they hang out, so to say, and and not where we want them to be necessarily, because that might backfire. Thank you so much for your insights. Anila, I do have a last question for you after my question for Caroline. And the discussion got really interested when we were talking about the language barrier and female entrepreneurship. I know that you are, I know for a long time now that you also had to face those two very challenges, overcoming the language barrier and trying to raise funds for this very movement that we are part of right now. So I'll be coming back to you for that. In the meantime, Caroline, how do you manage to achieve what you've already achieved? How easy or difficult was it for you to have access to those groups?
Well, I would tell you this, I don't find it to be difficult. And the reason that I don't find it to be difficult is our group, I'm on my 5th cohort now. And I've got somebody in my cohort now that knows somebody who was in my first cohort when I built a model of this program when I still worked for somebody else. So that's how communities work. It's informal, right? It's one says to another, and I have men in my program who have been able to learn it and find a job, and then they come to me and say, I want my wife to be in this program. I want my sister-in-law. Because this is the way for us to get a career in the Netherlands, rather than what is being decided for us, that we should take a cleaning job, or we should take a job that this is our way to get a career. So for me, I don't find it difficult because we're an open program. So people find us, right? And that makes a difference. It makes a difference in how you approach the world and how you go about adding people to your cohort. We also have the freedom of because we're not supported by anybody else, we don't get subsidies, we don't get grants, we don't have sponsors, we can be open to anyone we want. So there's various organizations that I've had conversations with, because they're like, well, we'd like to talk more about it. And something that comes up within the first half hour is, well, would you consider focusing only on our group of refugees, or our group of this, or our group of only women, or only this, or only, and that doesn't work. And I always say no. And then they're like, and so, but your communities are more than welcome to join ours, because having a successful network and building a network and building those connections means you need to be reaching across all of those lines that society puts in place for you. You need to be able to have men in your network. You need to have people who are refugees in your network. You need to have people who are expats or whatever. It should be as broad and inclusive as possible. That's what sets you up for success. That's what helps you build that life and career. So I don't have difficulty, actually, because our doors are open for everyone, and people come and check it out and see if it's a place that fits for them. Amazing. But I will say to you, going to the places where people are, and going and so much of, if you want to get people to access your programs or to come to your programs, then it's like I said earlier, educate yourself about technology and share that knowledge with other people in your community, right? Go out and if there's women in your organization, in your community that are missing technical skills or want to be more technical, share your knowledge with them. Say, I know of this program, or this program worked for me, or go talk to them. That's how it works. Waiting for someone else to give you access or direct you into finding the right access or everything else means you're going to be waiting. And maybe you'll be delayed at best, and you'll be denied at worst.
Amazing. And just very quickly, please, Caroline, in terms of affordability and costs, how does that look like for these disadvantaged groups as far as your program is concerned?
We follow a model where everyone is equal. So every student is responsible for 10% of their program cost, and some of them get supported through their families, others get it through UAF or other organizations. Doesn't matter. Everybody is the same. And then the remaining program costs come into play when they are placed with an employer after the program, because we feel that the employer is getting the benefit of having someone who has these skills and adding to them, and it's tax deductible for them, so that can be their investment. And the other thing that we do is after our program, after they complete the technical training, if they want it, because not everyone wants it, because that's another issue, they are offered a traineeship, a paid traineeship for 6 months to a year. So they get their first Dutch employer, they get their first experience in the field, you know, in an IT job, because everyone knows it's easier for you to find a job if you already have one. So, and everyone earns the same. So we're eliminating the gender pay gap. So all trainees start at the same hourly rate. You know, we've done as many things as possible to cut out all the places where you can create a gap and where you can create a disturbance. But that's how our model works.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I know Caroline as well for a long time now. I can definitely recommend her program, the Do Good Only Company. If you're looking to build your skills, do check her platform out. I'm going to move to my last question, which is for Anila, who's actually also going to be speaking after me. So I'll also take my leave here, thanking all of you to be part of this conversation with me and for contributing to this very important cause. Anila, last question to you, and then actually I'll just leave the mic with you. There's language barrier. There is costs involved. There's economic reasons. There are so many reasons why women in color do not achieve all those things that they are capable of achieving, that they have the actual potential for. You personally had to go through all those challenges. What I also feel throughout this whole conversation, and we've been working on this topic for a long time, a lot of the burden of actually being successful is placed on these people themselves, which is a big burden to bear, honestly. How did you deal with it personally, and what are your thoughts around that? And with that, thank you so much for providing me with the opportunity to moderate this.
Thank you. It's a big question. Honestly, it's very sensitive, very emotional, and very difficult to answer, to be very frank, because what we are going through, like still, we are trying to do in New Women Connector is to give, first of all, the visibility. What are the barriers according to this women of color or women who do not have the access to understanding? And even in our conversation again and again, and here they really feel emptiness. They do not feel affiliation with such a kind of platform. And the thing which I learned is you need to first trust yourself. You need to have this confidence, but it does not will come in 1 day or 2 days. You literally force yourself in these debates and to feel to be right on these places. And that's what we are trying to do. And this is our experience. We are working in the policy, in the gender strategies, in the equality and equity, and we are trying to, unpack the definition of what is equality means for me, what even feminism means for me, what is inclusion means for me, and even that's why when we were putting, a theme, topic, this name of this webinar, we really literally thought about: is it new barrier or is this a new opportunity? Because if we left and do not tell, educate about our problems to all these people who are making these inventions, interventions, and this technology, maybe we will left out, we will be left behind. So that's what we are trying to do. So yeah, I'm just watching the last minute of our talk, and before closing this and saying a thank to everyone in this one activity we need to do is called slogan. I'll come to that, but before that I really want to say thank you to all of everyone, like each and every. I don't know even how to show how much I'm feeling overwhelmed, excited, and I'm so thankful for everyone who are there as a panelist and an audience, and who are watching us in a Facebook page. So I really want to share our upcoming events, which is very important. So 20th of October, we're gonna have our virtual working conference for gender equality and equality beyond COVID-19. And then in the end of December, we're gonna put our manifesto for gender equality and equity in Europe. And beside that, I really want to invite each of every one of you as an organization, as an individual, as a role model to join us. We are preparing to launch our Global Refugee and Migrant Women Young Professional Leadership Program, and New Women Connector is trying to put together all the resources because we have motivation, we have passion, and we are trying. So we are taking as a moment to invite you all to join us to make this program happen. So now, this is the time for our slogan. And if you see in the chat, and we are doing this in a different webinar. So we all will say coping together, growing together. So I will count 1, 2, 3, and we all say together, coping together, growing together. So all of you are ready? Ready? Okay, I'm gonna count. 1, 2, 3.
1 second.
Okay.
I'm pretty microphones and we need to
so unmute your mic.
Yes, please.
Okay, unmute your, and we're gonna say 1, 2, 3 again, and coping together, growing together. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Coping together, growing together.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. I'm so excited and super excited. Thank you so much, and stay in touch. And if you have any question and feedback, you have our Facebook page and live. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.